What happens to someone who really has knowledge? In this society, in Western society, the more knowledge you have, the more status you have, the more recognition you have. Even within the Muslim subculture, within the American community, if you're a sheikh or you've got a degree from somewhere, etc., you have a certain title. You have a certain honor and respect among people, right? So your level kind of rises. And even if you're somebody who doesn't know much like myself, but people think you know a lot of stuff, right? And then somebody comes and questions what you're saying, or somebody corrects you, you feel like, who's he to correct me? I'm up here, he's down there. So what does knowledge do? Necessarily, if knowledge is not attached with taqwa, knowledge becomes a means of arrogance. Knowledge becomes a means of arrogance. But knowledge attached with taqwa, you know what it does? It humbles you even more. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the people of knowledge. And the reason I'm mentioning this before I go to the Sahaba is, all of you are MSA students, in whatever capacity you're trying to seek knowledge of Islam. And check yourself, and I'll check myself. Before we knew whatever we know now, we don't know a lot, right? But whatever little we know, before we knew that, we didn't used to argue. And once we learned a couple of things, then it became that what we know is the absolute truth, and what the others know is obviously wrong. How could they follow it? They're so utterly ridiculous for following what they're following. So what happened was, knowledge became a means of disagreement. Exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in the Quran, time and time again. وَمَا تَفَرَّقُوا إِلَّا مِن بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَتْهُمُ الْعِلْمُ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُم. They did not differ among each other. This ayah is repeated several times. For example, in Surah Shura, in Surah Baqarah itself, in Surah Al-Imran. They didn't differ amongst each other until after knowledge came upon them, بَغْيًا, as a means of being the dominant one, winning the argument among themselves. This became their state. So knowledge became a means of arrogance. But the people of real knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes almost at the end of Surah Bani Israel, Surah Al-Isra, where He says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمِ إِذَا يُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ يَخِرُّونَ لِلْأَذْقَانِ سُجَّدًا. The people of true knowledge, the ones who have been given real knowledge, when the ayat of Allah are recited upon them, then they fall on their faces in sajda. Meaning it humbles them. Their initial reaction, and the next ayah describes that they're falling in sajda and they're in tears. Knowledge is not something that brings you to tear unless you're a person of true knowledge. Which means what? You have a lot of stuff in here, you memorized a lot of ayat, you know a lot of tafsir, you know a lot of sahabis' names and all that stuff, right? But your heart is full of the knowledge of the deen, which is a whole different matter. This has very little to do with knowledge as we understand it, academic stuff. This is a whole other field, it's a whole other ballgame. So now when the knowledge was here, it led them to cry. Knowledge here, you can read a chapter or two from any tafsir, it's not going to make you cry. But the knowledge here, when the people of true knowledge, when they heard the ayat, their hearts were the ones that forced them to cry and fall into sajda. To say, وَيَقُولُونَ سُبْحَانَ رَبِّنَا إِن كَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّنَا لَمَفْعُولًا.